could be all this stuff that I had jammed in here, like all these power cords and stuff and main boxes. Right. Let me make sure it's not squawking like a bird, and then we're good. Wow, that's not bad. We can go live with that. Background or yeah, echoing. Yep. Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and mute it, and then we'll go live. I'll go get the lineups, and let's get this bad boy started. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Not bad. Talk to me.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1.
Keep going.
We'll be live in about 10 minutes with the start of Cherville versus Florence in the initial game of the North Carolina South Carolina American Legion Challenge here at Fort Mill High School.
We already got a couple of listeners. You want to go ahead and
give the
hell, I'll just
lineups.
kick it off. On behalf of Athletic Director Mac Banks, Head Coach Tom Skula, my name is John Turner. This gentleman to my left is the Honorable Keith Cook. He is the voice of Fort Mill Post 43 Juniors. I am the voice of Fort Mill Post 43 Seniors. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to the 2023 American Legion North Carolina versus South Carolina Challenge. And this first game of this three-day tournament features two powerhouse teams from opposing states, Keith, and that would be Cherryville out of North Carolina and Florence out of South Carolina. And if you look at these two teams' records so far, you can see why they're considered powerhouses, not just this year, but in years past.
Well, and anytime you think of even the Southeast Regional, perhaps when you have your South Carolina, North Carolina entries, you almost certainly see Cherryville or Florence contending to be in one of those slots. And so this is a real treat to be able to see two talented programs coming here to Fort Mill and kicking off the North Carolina, South Carolina American Legion Challenge today.
And so the head coaches of the two respective programs are headed out to home plate. It's a three-man umpire and crew here in Game 1. Game 1 is Cherryville against Florence, as we noted. Game 2 tonight in prime time will be the hosts, Fort Mill. They will take on Davidson County, post number 8, I believe, out of North Carolina, which is Lexington, North Carolina, by the way, in case anybody is wondering. So Keith is going to drive the boat. I'm just going to be the PA guy, and I'm going to put my 2 cents worth in every once in a blue moon. And we got to keep it between the navigational beacons. There's Coach Skula. Yep. North Carolina first, South Carolina code, then national anthem, and then put on the dog. Let's get it. So Derek.
Play ball indeed.
Derek Urquhart.
So we'll go over the lineups real fast. I guess you'll be doing Cherryville first, but I'll go ahead and give.
Yeah, go ahead with Florence, man.
Okay. Leading off for we're going to do Florence first.
Yep.
Leading off for Florence will be the left fielder Brody Cook. Then hitting second will be the second baseman Jackson Moore. Shamar Symes, the first baseman, will be hitting third. And in the cleanup position will be Zach Hunt, who's pitching and DHing. And there's definitely a rule regarding that to where he can come out of the game and still remain as the DH. Nick Foster will be the third baseman hitting fifth. Hitting sixth tonight will be Jamarcus Williams, the center fielder. Hitting seventh, the shortstop Colin Minshew. Batting eighth for post 1 will be the right fielder KJ Hughes. And the catcher tonight and hitting ninth will be Tucker Bass. So that's Cook, Moore, Symes, Hunt, Foster, Williams, Minshew, Hughes, and Bass. I apologize if I mess that one up. I'm pretty sure that I said Cherryville a couple of times, but that was actually for Florence post 1. Cherryville 100 will have Riley Stiles, the center fielder, leading off. Zane Brockman, the shortstop, will hit second. Hitting third for Cherryville will be the second baseman, Ashton Pope. The cleanup man tonight will be the left fielder, Ethan Guy. Hitting fifth tonight, the third baseman, Landon Jenkins. Will Fowler, the catcher, will be hitting sixth. And then Will Blackburn, the DH, will hit seventh. Batting eighth tonight, the first baseman, Joseph Webb. And rounding out the lineup will be the right fielder, Braden Williams. The DH, Will Blackburn, will be hitting for the pitcher, Colin Huss. So again, that's Stiles, Brockman, Pope, Guy, Jenkins, Fowler, Blackburn, Webb, and Reynolds to round up the lineup for Cherryville Post 100. And as we get ready for the game, we're going to pause briefly to have the national anthem and the code and the official presentation of the lineup. So while we do that, we will take a break. You're listening to the North Carolina, South Carolina American Legion Challenge here.
Concession stand will be open through Game 1 and Game 2 this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Come on out and get some good food or some drinks.
Play ball indeed. We get ready to get underway in the game one of the American Legion North Carolina South Carolina Challenge here at Fort Mill High School. I'm alongside John Turner here in the booth at Fort Mill High School, and we're getting ready to see one of the better games of the weekend, I imagine, here as an opener.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much better of an opener than this when it comes to the state of North Carolina and South Carolina. Florence Post won your 2021 state champions, the 2022 state champions. Rock Hill Post 34 in this tournament as well, and then the state runner-up in 2021, Fort Mill Post 43 also in this tournament. Cherryville, been there, done that, worn that T-shirt over and over again. But they're not alone with a powerhouse from the old North State, which is your home state, by the way. But now he's a transplant across the line. He's one of us now. He's a South Carolinian, Mr. Keith Cook from the Queen City area. The Queen City Mustangs, they're involved in this as well. They call themselves the City Boys. They can swing the war clubs a little bit and bring the heat from the top of the bump. And then included in that is Davidson County out of Lexington, North Carolina. They can bring it with the best of them. So this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out war for basically 3 days. Now, the temperature here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, it is not exactly the greatest of weather. It is pretty windy, but it is also hot. It's also very muggy here in the ballpark this afternoon. It is 88 degrees. It feels like it's 90. The wind is blowing about 10 miles an hour out of over towards the right field foul pole, and trying to check messages as we go along here. But that's all I've got to say about that. Going to let Keith Cook drive it the rest of the way, and he will take it from here. Keith, you are the man. Go for it.
Thank you, JT. And as you were saying, the wind blowing a little bit out between center and right field. So if you get a nice, strong left-handed hitter that can get hold of a barrel or two, you might see some of these balls flying over the scoreboard out in right field tonight. And as John mentioned, Davidson County is no team to sneeze at, pardon me. You have Lexington in both North Carolina and South Carolina that are very strong teams. So this will be quite a showdown here to get us started tonight. And center fielder Riley Stiles will step in there to lead it off for post 100. And he fouls that one off back to the screen. 0-1 is the count. The pitcher tonight for Florence will be Zach Hunt. He's out there right now on the mound. The umpire goes out there and has a little visit with him for just a second. So quickly the umpires making their mark on the game. We're only one pitch in, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I think what he did was he gave the catcher a chance to catch his breath, because that foul ball sort of caught the inside leg of the catcher, and that's not a covered spot. So
no, that ball's outside for ball one to even the count.
5:04 p.m., the official first pitch time. In Fort Mill, South Carolina, hazy skies. Like I said, it's warm. It's 88, but it feels like 90. Give you the dimension of the ballpark after this.
That ball is up high in the air out into right field, and it looks like the right fielder, Braden Reynolds, will make the catch for out number one. I got in my car coming over here this afternoon, and the thing registered 98 degrees. So that was quite a jolt to get into the car for that.
Yeah, it hits you like a ton of bricks, that's for sure.
Our first lefty of the night, Zane Brockman, the shortstop for Cherryville, stands in there, and he takes ball one. So first lefty, if he can get hold of one. The wind's died down here for the time being, but it's been kind of on and off, and that pitch, a called strike at the knees to even the count at 1-1. Pretty good crowd here from both sides so far, especially considering it's a work day and having to get here at 5 o'clock, and that ball's skied up into foul territory, and the third baseman, Landon Jenkins, will make the catch for out number two.
Welcome to play for Cherryville, post 100, second baseman number 18, Ashton Pope.
Ashton Pope comes to the plate now, the second baseman. 2 outs here in the top of the first inning, just getting underway here from Fort Mill High School. Florence post 1 against Cherryville, post 100. Cherryville, the visitors today. First pitch upstairs for ball one. Zach Hunt, a very tall young man up there on the mound, very imposing looking. Shakes off some signals, but here comes the 1-0 pitch. It catches the outside corner to even the count at 1-1. Fort Mill head coach Tom Skula wandering around the premises. He's ready to get his team out on the field tonight.
He wanders, doesn't he?
He does.
He wanders.
Allen's upstairs for ball 2.
The dimensions of the ballpark: 310 down the lines, 383 to dead center, 345 to the power alleys, but it's a 12-foot fence as that pitch is outside the zone. So I was talking to a couple of Florence players who got here really early this afternoon. They wanted to take a few swings, which of course they did, and they were asking, is it easy to hit one out of here? I said, well, it depends on where you hit it.
Ball hit out to the shortstop. He throws over to make the play for out number 3. So 3 up, 3 down for Cherville in the top of the first inning. No runs, no hits, no errors. We'll head to the bottom of the first with a score Cherville nothing and Florence coming to bat. You're listening to the North Carolina, South Carolina American League Challenge here on YouTube, and we'll be right back after these messages. Colin Huss takes the mound for Cherville post 100 in the bottom of the first inning. Tall left-hander's getting 2 more warm-up pitches to go, and then he'll face Florence post 1's lineup, which will be Brody Cook in left field leading off. Jackson Moore, the second baseman, hitting second. Shamar Symes hitting third. They'll be due up here in the bottom half of the first inning. No score here from Fort Mill, just underway. Bottom of the first inning, as I mentioned. And we got started at 5:04, and here we are, 5:10, just moving right along. Nightcap tonight, of course, will be the homestanding Fort Mill post 43 against these same Cherville post 100ers, and we'll look forward to that game as well.
First inning for Florence post 1, left fielder number 21, Brody Cook.
And Brody Cook, the left fielder, will lead off here for Florence post 1. Umpire already taking his hat and mask off here. It's a burner here in Fort Mill this afternoon.
It is. You want to take an egg and put it on the sidewalk, it'll be fried in about a couple of minutes. That's something Joel Riley would do. He's an assistant coach for Fort Mill. He's through the wall over here. He thinks that he's up here incognito. Cat's out of the bag.
Joel wanted the omelet, though, I thought. That pitch right down Tom Hall Street for strike 1. Yes, we will use the...
He is from Boston.
the street names from Fort Mill during this tournament. The 0-1 pitch. Looked like he caught the outside corner, but stays up a little high to even the count at 1-1.
These are very experienced umpires that walked into the ballpark tonight. So both teams are going to try to see what they can do with the strike zone. Both teams have got to figure it out on the fly.
Down in the dirt for ball 2, and it's good to see that they've got the home plate umpire as well as a couple of line judges, if you will, down the lines. Can never have too many eyes out there.
Field in perfect condition, thankfully.
2-1 fouled back. Now leaving it up 2-2. So Huss, a left-hander. Doesn't look like the speed comes across that fast, but a lot of lefties will have that dialed in and disguised. And he covers his face as he gets ready to deliver the 2-2. Down to the dirt, ball 3, running it full.
Well, it looks like he's still trying to find his spot, his landing spot, because if you notice the black stick spots out there where his plant foot lands. His spot and the pitcher for Florence's spot are very close to each other, but they're not the same spot.
And 3-2, and that's drilled down between short and third for our first base hit of the game, and Florence strikes first, getting a runner aboard here to lead off the bottom of the first inning.
Walking the play for Florence, post one, second baseman number 6, Jackson Moore. So Keith Cook will do the play-by-play. I'll just throw my 2 cents worth every once in a while. A couple of notes so you understand what's going on. I'm also the public address announcer here at Fort Mill High School, so Keith's going to drive the boat for the broadcast. I'm going to come in there and say something every once in a while and try to sound halfway intelligent. The other thing is you'll hear us muted as we go between innings. That's to keep away from the copyright issues of songs that get played. The YouTube police are out and about all the time, and they will zing you for certain songs. So we have to be careful with that. The 1-0 is swung on and fouled out of play. And a ball and a strike here to the second batter in the bottom of the first.
Jackson Moore, the second baseman, also a lefty. That wind's starting to pick up a little bit more. It's kind of swirling out in center field a little bit, going from right to left. But if Moore can get hold of one, he might get the first blood here for Florence here in the bottom of the first, the 1-1. Instead, he throws over to the first baseman, which is Joseph Webb.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was not his A++ move. I think that's just a, hey, let me human rain delay this and figure out what I want to throw here on a 1-1.
Especially with probably a speedy leadoff hitter for Florence. That ball's up high for ball 2. He doesn't look like he's making a move.
Yeah, almost like a pitch out right there.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with head coach Derek Urquhart of Florence. He's aggressive, and he will put his foot on your throat and then twist it just for good measure.
Now ball's high for ball 3, so a good runner's count here.
And I don't mean that in a negative way either. He's
right.
just a very aggressive coach. Florence has played Fort Mill in the past, especially in 2021. We saw them. He had a guy named Pendergrass at the top of his order, and that guy just ran all over the place.
Now ball's right down the middle to start to run the count full. So 2 consecutive batters with full counts. Let's see what Jackson does here.
One thing you got to pay close attention. You cannot fall behind hitters at this level when teams are this good. You will get burned. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And if you saw that in the top half of the first inning where Florence's starting pitcher, Mr. Hunt, got off to quick starts and went 1, 2, 3. But you see his counterpart, Colin Huss, kind of struggle busting here.
And he's off and running, and that's ball 4 anyway.
Yeah, you see that a lot, the 3-2, just trying to get him in motion. So the first 2 batters on for first baseman Shamar Symes. Florence, the first baseman number 16, Shamar Symes.
Shamar Symes, the first baseman, stands in there with 2 runners aboard and nobody out here in the bottom of the first in a scoreless game. Symes digs in. He twists and turns like Chubby Checker up there, and he's all set and ready for the first pitch.
No batting gloves. Old school.
Old school.
I love it.
And you just look at him, and the way his mannerisms are in the box, you just know that if he gets on that barrel, that thing is going to go out there in that parking lot.
He was one of the young men I ran into before the game, really early on. He was one of the first young men here, and he was a joy to talk to. But you could tell, being up close to him, he's extremely powerful. And that pitch sails all the way to the backstop on the fly, just a bit outside.
Just a touch outside.
Just a tick.
If the yellow jacket, Buzz Jacket, had been down there, he would have gotten plunked in the old melon.
Yeah, there would have been a urgent care visit, which is not in the budget, in case you're wondering. But that thing does twofold. Number one, it's as good as a bunt, but it takes the double play out of order.
Yep, and now runners are in scoring position for the powerful-looking Symes up at the bat. And Huss just looks like he's a little bit out of sorts right now. And I don't know if that has to do with his plant, his foot coming off the rubber or not. And so the catcher comes out there to have a little talk with him for a second and see what happens here, try to calm him down. Otherwise, he's definitely treading in dangerous waters.
He's definitely in the soup. To me, what it looked like was the catcher went down expecting something off speed and got the fastball high.
Mm-hmm.
So I think not on the same page.
And Symes swings and misses to even the count at 1-1.
Florence Symes does not get cheated on the swings, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Wow.
It's going to be fun watching him play this weekend. The 1-1. And he hits it between second and short, and that'll score 1 run, or third and short, pardon me. And it's 1-0 Florence, and he trips going around the bag. Hope he's okay, but a RBI single for Symes, and Florence draws first blood here.
He'll get high fives and then laughed at for tripping off first. Next up for Florence, post number 1, number 24, Zach Hunt.
That'll bring us to the pitcher, Zach Hunt.
Yeah, so an RBI and a trip. We'll have a nice trip. We'll see you next fall. Thank you. I'll see myself out.
Tip your bartenders and waitresses.
I heard another dad joke earlier this morning, but it's so bad. It's so bad. That first pitch misses low. Runners at the corners and nobody out here. So I'm wondering, you go back to the previous sequence. When does he send that runner at first? Because Symes can fly.
And he hits that one up the middle and gets through to center field. They'll score another run. It's 2-0 now, Florence. And they're just hitting at will and walking at will, and everything looking good for Florence so far.
Everybody's reached. That's what you want. Here's Foster.
Scoreboard technician error, that'd be me. The first pitch up, ball 1. So Nick Foster stands in there, and he goes down to talk to his coach.
Coach Urquhart has called a timeout. I think he wants a courtesy runner for his pitcher. And that's exactly what he wants. He wants to take Mr. Hunt off the base pads on a warm day. I don't blame him. Trying to see the number on the young man. I think it's number 3.
It is number 3.
And that's Jake Hardy.
Jake Hardy, the courtesy runner for the pitcher, Zach Hunt. And Nick Foster stands in there with nobody out, up 2-0. He squares the bunt, and the ball's up high.
Courtesy runner at first base for Florence, number 3, Jake Hardy.
Always nice to get your name called out at an American Legion ball game.
As long as it's pronounced properly.
Correct.
Or you'll get a visit from
somebody's mom.
Yep.
The 2-0. Swing and a miss for strike 1. 2-0 Florence. We're here in the bottom half of the first inning, live from Fort Mill High School. I'm Keith Cook with John Turner. We're going to bring you all the action tonight and the nightcap between Fort Mill and Cherryville. And he hits a bullet out in the left field, and that'll be a base hit, and that'll load the bases. And as you mentioned, getting everybody on to start out, that's definitely good news for Florence.
Base hit number 4 to go along with the walk, already a 2-0 lead. Bases loaded, nobody out, and here comes a visit to the mound already, and nobody's even been recorded out. There's already action stirring in the bullpen.
And how are you feeling if you're Colin Huss right now? You come into this big game, you've given up 4 hits already, a couple of walks, and it's bad to start out that way.
When it rains, it pours, especially against a team like Florence, who's got big stick after big stick after big stick. And not that Cherryville doesn't, they certainly do. And this could turn into a scoring fest. The other thing that I want to keep in the back of my mind is every team in this tournament has already played this week. So what's the bullpen situation for every single team? Because every head coach has had to figure out that bullpen management this entire week. And some teams were involved in some slobber knockers, if you will. There was a lot of crooked numbers. So how does that fare with both of these teams? You don't really know, and it's going to play itself out. But in this game, with it being 2-0 Florence already, you don't want to fall behind too far too early. So I think the rope just got a lot shorter for Colin Huss.
Jamarcus Williams, the center fielder, stands in there with the bases loaded and still nobody out here in the bottom of the first. First pitch inside and high for ball 1. And you also, Fort Mill, we have the luxury of not playing until Tuesday. So, so
the juniors.
The juniors, right. So it's that does have to play into consideration for your rotations because Lancaster's going to be no slouch next week for everybody.
No, they're not. They're really not. And don't let their record at the senior level anyway, don't let their record fool you. Everybody in that region, Winsboro, Lancaster, Fort Mill, and Rock Hill can all play. And there's ball 4, and nope.
That's 3. That's what I thought, too.
I thought it was 3-0.
And he started running.
2-0.
There must have been it's 2-0. There must have been a balk.
So it's 3-0.
The runners advance, and now they're in scoring position for Jamarcus Williams. The 2-0 pitch coming.
Yep, had to be a balk because the pitch did not count. So
that's down low for ball 3. For Cherryville, at least first base is open in the event that Williams walks, and you still have all 4 bases for force outs. The 3-0 pitch right down the middle for strike 1. And you got to wonder if Williams was taking all the way on that one. I suspect that most times they are.
I mean, up by 3, nobody out, runners at second and third. I mean,
don't do anything silly.
Right.
The 3-1 is down low for ball 4, and that'll put the bases loaded once again. And that'll bring up Colin Minshew, the shortstop.
How about it for Florence, shortstop number 4, Colin Minshew.
Already down to the 7th batter here for Florence. They're up 3-0. Nobody out here in the bottom of the first. Bases loaded for the shortstop, Colin Minshew. Here's the pitch. And he just kind of lofts that one right over the outside corner for strike 1. And if you're Florence, you're probably taking a patient approach considering that Huss has been struggling out there here in the bottom of the first. The 0-1 pitch. Swing and a miss for strike 2. Due up in the top of the second will be Ethan Guy, Landon Jenkins, and Will Fowler for post 100. But for now, the 0-2 pitch. Down the dirt, and it gets away, and a run will score. All 3 runners advance, and that makes it 4-0 Florence on the pass ball by the catcher, Will Fowler. So Minshew sitting up there saying, all right, well, I've gotten 1 in so far. Let's see how much damage more I can do here while I'm at the plate with a 1-2 count. Don't have a pitch count right now, but you got to think that he's in a position that ball is driven out into center field. It'll bring the run home on a sacrifice fly. So Minshew gets an RBI on the sacrifice fly, and it's 5-0 Florence. So KJ Hughes, the right fielder, will stand in there, and there's 1 out here in the bottom of the first inning. They get the first out on a sacrifice fly by the shortstop, Colin Minshew. The pitch right down the middle of strike 1. So now it looks like Huss is starting to get a little bit of a rhythm going here, and that's certainly good for him. The 0-1 pitch. And he kind of fouls that one off the handle to the right side, and that'll be strike 2 quickly in the hole. Runner at second base, and that's Jamarcus Williams.
The beloved athletic director of Florence Post 1, Mr. Mike Ritchie, said, John Boy, make that camera show all the bases, son. So asking ye shall receive. As that ball sprayed foul, stays 0-2. Want to say a special hello to Mike Ritchie. He's a great dude. He's been really great to me for several years, and just the tip of the cap to him. Does a great job with Florence Post 1, and just very thankful he's on the broadcast tonight, and thank him for spreading the word of this YouTube channel and the broadcast of these games tonight, and appreciate the opportunity. Mike, hope you're doing well, my friend.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. That ball sprayed foul. He's staying alive, KJ Hughes is. Here's the pitch, and he hits that one down into right field. So he was patient and found the pitch that he wanted to drive out into right field. That's what he was looking at the whole time. And runners at the corners here with 1 out here in the bottom half of the first inning, and that'll bring up the catcher, Tucker Bass. And that will be the end of the night for Colin Huss. Made it a third of an inning. Five runs so far, and the 2 runners out on the base paths are his responsibility.
Yeah, not exactly the start you wanted for Mr. Huss, not whatsoever. And if you're the head coach of Cherryville Post 100, Coach Reynolds, coming into the day's game, the last thing he expected to have to do was go to his bullpen in the bottom half in the first inning with only one out, down 5-0, with runners at the corners, and already hitting up the bullpen. And I think
Colton
Mays. Yep. Let me introduce him to the crowd. So yeah, not exactly the pristine start that Coach Reynolds wanted. And I met him for the first time ever before tonight's game. Had a jovial conversation with him, and that was a lot of fun for sure. Of course, I had some laughs with Coach Derek Urquhart. Of course, I've met and talked with him before, and had a very nice conversation with his assistants, and had some laughs. And but for the dad joke, that's really inappropriate, especially for online streaming. But do you know what the cheapest meat around is?
I have to give up on that.
Yeah, deer balls. They're under $1. 2, 3, 4. I will see myself out. Thank you.
Again, tip your bartenders and waitresses tonight. John will be here all weekend.
Or tip them over. Now you understand why my wife doesn't let me go out in public very often.
Yes, mine doesn't either, and probably for good measure.
Oh, 100%. It's and every time we do, she's like, "Why did I marry you?" I'm like, "I don't know, but it was a moment of weakness, and I took advantage of the situation." That was 20. It'll be 25 years in August.
Wow, congratulations!
Yeah, you and Teresa have been married for a minute.
Yep, it'll be 24 years for us in September. So she's really had to walk around with a blindfold for 24 years, I guess, so to speak, and it's kind of hard to believe that it's been like that. And you say,
"Hope she never gets her glasses correct."
I know, and you mentioned, why did I marry you? And it certainly wasn't for my bank account. So there must have been something good there somewhere. Maybe the fact that I go to Ohio all the time for her, I don't know. So Colton Mays comes in to relieve Colin Huss.
Florence is the catcher, number 11,
and that'll bring the catcher Tucker Bass up first and third here with one out in the bottom of the first, with Florence leading 5-0. And Mays throws over to third base.
Now, if I understand correctly, it is the major league rule, so you can't fake the third, fake to first. You have to throw to the bag. So
that ball's inside. Ball one. Looks like Mays has a touch more speed than Huss does, and that could fool some of the hitters that might be coming up around the order the second time around.
Lucky arm side run on that pitch as well.
Fouls that one off to the batting facility to even the count 1-1.
Now, the happiest guy in the ballpark right now has to be Zach Hunt for Florence. He's the starting pitcher for post one. But having said that, he's now sat in the dugout for a long time here. Yes, he's got a 5-run lead, but I'm looking down, expecting him to kind of pop out and just keep his arm a little loose as the runner takes off for second, as the breaking ball is called. A strike is dropped by the catcher.
So now runners at second and third here with one out in the bottom of the first.
So it takes the double play out of order, and now a base hit would give Florence, it would kick the extra point. It would make it 7-zip. Oh, wait, wrong sport.
Which I'm hoping the Tar Heels will do a lot this year.
Oh, why do you have to bring that up?
Well, at least you guys get to whoop us this year. That ball's down low. It almost looked like it caught the corner, but that'll leave him the count of 2-2.
2-2. And when he says y'all, looking to me, he's talking about my beloved Clemson Tigers. I'm a graduate of Clemson. I had physical therapy this morning. I'll tell you about that after this pitch. That was fun. And that one sprayed out of play foul. It stays 2-2. So my physical therapist was working on me. I have to get a lot of dry needling done because I have a lot of nerve issues that causes a lot of muscle spasms, especially in my back and in my shoulders. And she was talking to her new assistant, who was born the year I got out of Clemson. That'll make you feel old in a heartbeat. Another 2-2 right down Tom Hall Street, but I'm going to guess low. It's 3-2.
I think it hopped into the catcher's glove just from where I was seeing here. Full count yet again for a Florence batter, and that'll be the catcher, Tucker Bass. Here comes the 3-2 pitch. And a swing and a miss for strike three, and that'll be out number 2 here in the bottom of the first.
Took a little something off of it and had Bass out in front. We go back to the top of the order. Brady Cook. Back to the top of the order. Brody, not Brady.
Brody, the
Brody
left
Cook.
fielder, comes up with 2 outs here in the bottom of the first. He reached on a walk his first time up. Mays looks in. Here's the pitch. He hits it off to the right side. A lot of these Florence batters are spraying their fouls off to the right side.
And one thing you will notice about Florence, regardless of whether they're a power hitter, a speed guy, whatever the case may be, um, they're going to battle and foul a lot of pitches off. That's just the way Coach Urquhart coaches his team to do. They're just, I don't want to say nagging. That's probably a derogatory term, but they're just so gritty. They're not just going to give in a bat away. They're going to keep fouling off pitch after pitch till they get one they like and can handle.
And Colin Minshew was a perfect example of that. And that's fouled off the foot of Cook, but he'll get back in there for a 1-2 pitch.
We're still in the bottom of the first. It's 5-0 Florence. Wow. I didn't think I'd be saying that either.
Well, and you also got to wonder if Coach Urquhart, what he's thinking about his pitching rotation as well. Does he leave Zach in for much longer with a 5-0 lead? I guess it all depends on how he performs the next couple. And that's right down the middle, called strike 3. And so that'll end the end of the first inning. 5 runs, 5 hits, no errors, 2 men left on base. And we're going to head to the top half of the second inning with your score: Florence 5, Cherryville nothing. You're listening to the North Carolina, South Carolina American Legion Baseball Challenge here on the We Are Fort Mills Broadcasting YouTube network. And we'll be right back after these important messages.
And welcome back, everybody, into the 2023 North Carolina versus South Carolina American Legion Challenge. Game number 1, Cherryville Post 100, Florence Post 1. As the boys from North Carolina with the red jerseys, and Keith's right, they look like the Cincinnati Reds. It's the Cincinnati Red logo, white pants with a black stripe. Florence is in the all-white jerseys. Is it maroon or garnet? We'll let Mr. Ritchie decide which one it is. He'll have the final say on that one. And leading it off here, Cherryville, here in the top of inning number 2, should be Ethan Guy, and it is.
Leading up the top of the second inning for Cherryville is left fielder number 20, Ethan Guy.
Ethan Guy steps in there to lead off the top half of the second inning for Cherryville Post 100.
It's got to be Garnet because Derek Urquhart is a Gamecock.
I was going to say, there's got to be some kind of Gamecock relation to that.
Yes, Derek Urquhart loves the Gamecocks.
That ball's fouled off. Here comes the 0-1 pitch. And that's a lazy fly ball out into right field, but it'll be an easy catch for KJ Hughes for out number 1.
I'll take us to Jenkins.
Landon Jenkins, the third baseman, will stand in there with 1 out here in the top of the second with his team trailing 5-0. And he's looking to kind of get something going here for the post 100ers. And that first pitch is down to the dirt, ball 1.
And Coach Reynolds for Cherryville, none too pleased and not very amused at all. Standing there with his hands on his hips. He is not happy with his team's start. They're looking for their first hit, and Florence already has 5.
And it's an awfully hot day to be out there and face something like this, 5-0. That pitch is right down the middle for strike one.
But you've never really been hot till you've been in the state tournament for South Carolina in Sagra Park in Columbia, South Carolina for a 2:00 start.
Well, Columbia is just the desert.
That was one day was 114 on the field or
Good
some
grief.
such nonsense. It was ridiculous. But that is a gorgeous facility. By the way, the state tournament is in Florence this year.
That ball's outside, so the first base runner of the afternoon for post 100, and that'll bring up
Fowler.
Fowler. Yes, Will Fowler, the catcher.
Now batting for Cherryville is the catcher number 4, Will Fowler.
Now, if you're Coach Urquhart and you're his pitching coach, the last thing he wanted to see was a free pass. You get a 5-run lead and then you give a free 90. That drives baseball coaches bananas. Just throw strikes. If they're going to hit it, at least they earned it.
That ball's down in the dirt, 1-0.
But to get first base without even picking the War Club off his shoulder, Coach Urquhart's going to let his pitcher know about that.
And as you mentioned, they haven't gotten a hit yet in this game, and so this is a bad way to earn it in terms of what Coach Urquhart's trying to do here. The 1-0. And that's hit over to second base. Almost caught him leaning a little bit. That'll move the runner over.
Wasn't hit hard enough to turn to. Only play really was to first. So
2 outs in the top half of the second inning, and that'll bring up the DH, Will Blackburn. So Cherryville has their first runner in scoring position here in the bottom of the second inning with 2 outs. And designated hitter Blackburn, who was hitting for the pitcher Colin Huss, is still in that position hitting for Colton Mays. And I don't know how many POs they have over there at Cherryville. Maybe that's just what they're doing right now.
well, the other thing you have to consider is that pitch is swung on and a 2-hopper, and it eats up the third baseman. Took a wicked hop, but talk about saving bacon and he's yelling to save. Oh, baby. Backing it up was the shortstop. See, I like that from the standpoint of hustle. The shortstop did not assume the third baseman was going to make the play. He's hustling over. That ball trickles into left field. It's first and third. Now it's first and second, and the next batter is Webb.
Now batting is the first baseman number 12, Joseph Webb.
You keep that lead runner 180 feet away from home plate instead of 90.
That's it. Don't assume.
First baseman Joseph Webb steps in there with 2 outs here, looking to get the first run on the board for post 100. And he likely will do that. That's a ball that drops into right field, but coach holds him up at third base, and that'll load him up.
That's just a little Ric Flair.
Woo!
Out into right center field.
Now batting is the right fielder number 3, Braden Reynolds.
So one swing of the War Club, and we got ourselves a ball game.
We do.
You didn't expect Cherryville, or at least I didn't expect them to go away without some sort of a fight. They're too doggone good.
That's right. And I know that they're not used to being in this position down 5-0 after 1.
And so they're going to have to do a little maintenance to the second base bag, because when the runner went back in, he went in face first. And when he pushed that right hand into the bag, it kind of bent the bag a little bit and popped up. And we do fight, in the art of fairness, we do fight some grading issues here at Fort Mill High School. We fight this infield tooth and nail. We've had to do it all year long. Really long story as to why, but nonetheless, the scoop is out there. They're just basically going to scrape some dirt off, put that base back in the proper way. That way it's flush so nobody gets hurt, because no matter who you're pulling for, what you want the score to be, any of that stuff, the last thing you want to see is one of these young men get hurt. But going back to that point I was trying to make a while ago, which is you're talking about POs, the question I have is who's not here for Florence, who's not here for Cherryville, who's not here for QC, who's not here for so on and so forth. I don't know if everybody's got all the bullets in their gun, so to speak.
Right. Reynolds stands in there, bases loaded. He's the 9th hitter for post 100. The ball's up high, ball 1.
And it's just a fastball, and you can tell with his body language, he's starting to get frustrated with himself. Not quite as crisp as that first inning, and I hate to harp on it, but you go back to having to sit for so long.
Mm-hmm. The 1-0 pitch. Right down Tom Hall Street to even the count at 1-1.
Looked like he took a little something off that just to get a strike in the zone. But if he pokes it, the batter can poke it right back up the middle. It's 2 runs.
That's inside the ball, too. And going back to the base being out there at second base, I'll give a shout out to Juniors head coach Mike Lewis, who loves taking care of those base paths.
Oh, yeah,
He certainly did it nation forward.
Yeah, loves in air quotes. Love and hate. There's a thin
2-1,
line.
way outside for ball 3, and there's nowhere to put Reynolds here on the base paths. A walk will give Cherville their first run of the afternoon.
Yeah, love and hate are both four-letter words, which are also something Coach Lewis says while he's working on said loving bases.
And inside for ball 4,
Wow.
and Cherville scores their first run of the afternoon
on a walk.
On a walk, which, again,
turn the lineup card over. Here's Styles.
390.
Back to the top of the order for Cherville, post 100, and center fielder number 14, Riley Styles.
So Riley Styles stands in there with the bases loaded. But going back to Coach Lewis, he would love to go down there and fix those bases when they came out. It was almost like in Christmas Story when the dad was trying to change the tire.
Yeah, the lug nuts. Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be what you don't want to be around Coach Lewis. You don't want to be Ralphie when you say something you're not supposed to, because you will get ripped sideways.
The 1-0, right down the middle for strike one.
And that's the one thing that I will brag on for just a second. Coach Skula and Coach Lewis, the junior and senior coaches for Fort Mill Post 43, they're old school with their style. They're going to let players know about it. They're going to hold them accountable. There's a shot into center field, but coming on the center fielder, nice running catch.
Very nice play by Jamarcus Williams.
Aside. Yep, a run on a couple of hits, no errors, bases left loaded. We had the bottom of the second, 5-1 your score. Headed to the bottom of inning number 2, ladies and gentlemen, here at beautiful Fort Mill High School, affectionately known in this town as the Hive, home of the Fort Mill Yellow Jackets, 3-time state champions, 7-time upper state champions. First state championship in school history was 1961. It was the baseball program, 61, 62, and 02. A little quick history. Travis Collier is the head coach of the Fort Mill Yellow Jackets. He was a part of that 2002 state championship team. In 7 years as the head coach of the Jackets, all he's done is win a region title, an upper state title, and 3 district crowns. Other than that, he sucked out loud.
Bring out the bottom of the second inning.
And it doesn't just stop with Fort Mill High School. Nation Ford has gone to the playoffs each of the last few seasons as well. They made their district championship game last year. That pitch outside the zone, it's 2-0. Not to mention the Catawba Ridge Copperheads, who got beaten last year by the Lawrence Raiders in their district title game. This year paid revenge back tenfold. They beat the Raiders, ended their season, beat Riverside, and then beat North Myrtle Beach for the 4A state championship. All of that in the same little town of 75,000 people. So we kind of take a lot of pride in that, for whatever it's worth. Yes. Yes. That's a great point. How about it for Florence? Is the first baseman. I like it. I like the fact he turns the bat over with the knob and he writes a little message in the dirt. And between games, I'm going to have to go down and help refurb the field. I can't wait to see what he's written in the dirt there. Some players it's a cross. Some I've even seen some players will actually do the initials of their mom or something like that. It just depends on their particular situation. Something that gives them inspiration. Uh, yeah. And by the way, just to finish the thought on the town of Fort Mill, so in 2015, the Nation Ford Falcons won the 4A state title in softball. Fort Mill won the 2022 5A state title in softball, and Catawba Ridge won the 4A state title in softball just a month ago. So the ladies can swing the war club and bring the heat here in the Milltown as well. And sometimes we do get lumped in with air quotes Charlotte. We're not Charlotte. We will bark back at that. We're far from Charlotte. Yeah, we're right up against the line, but we're South Carolina and proud. Because North Carolina schools don't like coming down here and playing us because they usually go home with a loss. That's going to be a fair ball. It's going to bang up against the fence. They got to go dig it out because it hit the bottom of that chain link fence and it just died on the track. So going into third a little gingerly is Jackson Moore, but it'll be a double for Symes. And now Florence back at it again, second and third, and nobody down for the cleanup hitter, Hunt. Walking to the plate for Florence is your pitcher. The Shohei Ohtani rule. If I were him, I wouldn't hit it to that part of the park. You want to jack one out of here, the light pole in left field, hit it towards that, or aim for the scoreboard. The ball will fly headed to those alleys towards the foul poles. But if you hit it between the light poles in center field where the Fort Mill logo is and the words Fort Mill with the Nike swoosh, that's where fly balls go to die. It goes all the way to 383 to dead center with a 12-foot fence. I've only seen it hit that part of the park and out twice, and that ball is rocket. It's home run distance, but foul. And there's only two people that have ever hit it out to center field that I can remember. Justin Lehman, who's at the United States Military Academy, was one. The other guy, you might have heard of him, was Caden Grice. The Greer Warhawks. Yep, people forget he was, yep, people forget he was part of the American Legion once upon a time. How about for Florence? It's the third baseman, number 2, Nick Foster. That'll be charged an E5. And I think he wanted to come home, and then he didn't turn his shoulders and set his feet. He kind of looked at first, but didn't use proper mechanics, and the ball sailed on him. And in this park, there's a lot of foul territory, and it will chew you up. And it did there on Cherryville to make it 7-1. And the line moves for Jamarcus Williams.
Jamarcus Williams comes to the plate, 7-1. So yet again, A runner in scoring position for Florence post 1, and DeMarcus Williams comes to the plate.
Less than 2 outs. Sound like a broken record, don't it?
It does. Been seeing this all day long. 7-1. First pitch, here comes. A little bit high for ball 1. Looked like it was in a good spot where Williams wouldn't be able to reach it, but a little bit high.
I was talking to Coach Fidowa before the game tonight. I asked him 5 times how to say his name properly. That pitch, just a little bit high and inside. Wisely, Mr. Williams would duck out of the way of that one.
And not only that, but he also lowered his bat so he didn't have the opportunity to foul it off behind his head.
Yes,
See that way too often in high school baseball.
we do.
Mays delivers the 2-0, and it's outside. And he was looking back at second base an awful lot, and I think that probably took his concentration off just a touch, and that ball was away and high for 3-0.
And you don't want to pay so much attention to the base runner that it changes your mechanics going to the plate. Worry about the guy at the plate.
That one's right down the middle for strike 1, 3-1. Williams taking all the way on that one.
Because if you don't take care of the guy at the plate, you might hang one and you just made a problem worse.
A 3-1 pitch to DeMarcus Williams. Here it comes. Down to the dirt for ball 4. Runners at first and second now, with just 1 out here in a 7-1 game. And
Back for Florence, the shortstop, number 4, Colin Mitch.
that'll bring up Minshew, the number 7 hitter, the shortstop.
He is, from what I understand, Mr. Minshew is a rising senior, or did he just graduate from Latta High School? I'll tell you about these Florence cats here in just a second. They're sprinkled all over the place over there in the PD region of South Carolina. One of my good friends, Gerald Anderson, was born in Timmonsville, South Carolina. His mama and daddy now call Effingham home. And these youngsters for Florence, some of them from around them parts.
And Latta has a fantastic baseball program.
Mm-hmm.
The 1-0. And he strokes it out in the center field. The center fielder's coming in to charge, and he does. A fake tag down at second base by Nick Foster, but he's not going anywhere, and that'll be out number 2.
Yeah, still an out, but still an atom ball.
It is. He pounded that ball.
Next up for Florence is right fielder, number 9, KJ Hughes.
So KJ Hughes stands in there, and maybe the humidity plays a little bit in that, and that ball just kind of stayed up there a little bit further. But we've seen 2 line drives out in the center field that could just as easily have dropped under the glove and could have caused some real big problems. Center fielder shifts all the way out into right center field. And I think that's because Hughes was fouling everything off to the right side and then eventually got a base hit out in the right field.
Yeah, it tells me that they don't think that he can pull Mr. Mays. And shifts sometimes work to perfection, and sometimes they fail miserably.
That is an awfully large gap between left and center field, and that ball's in the dirt 2-0.
And KJ is something you don't normally see, a junior out of Marion High School. His slash is he's an outfielder and a catcher. Don't normally see that split. Normally catchers end up being first baseman, sometimes second baseman, but you don't see them being outfielders very often.
The 2-0 is outside for ball 3.
And that tells you how athletic KJ is to be able to do that. 7-1 Florence is your score as we play ball here in the bottom of inning number 2 here at Fort Mill High School. Game 1 of the 2023 South Carolina versus North Carolina Challenge. Another game to follow tonight, and that pitch is high and inside. Ball 4 to KJ. And now the Ducks are on the pond. Florence runners as far as the old eye can see, and that'll bring up the 9-hole hitter, Bass.
Next up for Florence is the pitcher, number 11, Tucker Bass.
Tucker Bass, the catcher, up for his second time, and he also makes a little design down in the outside the batter's box with the knob of his bat, and he's getting set to face Colton Mays. That ball is catching the outside corner, for strike 1.
And this is, to me, one of the cool parts about Legion baseball. Tucker Bass and KJ Hughes during the regular season aren't exactly best of friends. Lakeview High School versus Marion. No love lost between those two, but they're teammates.
Line drive out to the shortstop, Zane Brockman, and he will retire the side for out number 3, but not before Florence grabs 2 more runs on 2 hits.
2 more runs into the third inning. Your score is now Florence 7.
As you can hear my partner JT say, it's now at the end of the second inning with your score Florence 7, Cherryville 1. You're listening to the North Carolina South Carolina American Legion Baseball Challenge. Right. Correct. Yeah, I would say so. And the addition of the Clover guys has been welcomed for sure because those guys know how to play some baseball over there. They know how to play some baseball over there by Lake Wiley.
Yeah, they do. And I haven't seen the news. I wonder if they passed that bond to build the new Lake Wiley High School, because that would take away from Clover.
It would, and we've seen that here in Fort Mill quite often.
And that is an awful thing.
The ball is upstairs to Zane Brockman, the shortstop.
It's good from the standpoint of you keep class sizes down, but it's bad from an athletic standpoint because you're breaking up teams. And that pitch is low and inside.
A lot of these guys have played together for so long.
Yeah. Even Rock Hill and Fort Mill, as much as there's no love lost between the two, even after last night's game, guys have played travel ball together, and they all loved each other. That pitch is swung on and roped into the gap in left center field. This one's going to roll all the way to the wall. On the bag at second, on the bag at first, headed to second is Zane Brockman, and he'll stroll in with a leadoff double. So Cherryville still making some noise here in the top of the third.
A double by Brockman, and that's their second base hit of the night. So runner in scoring position to lead off here at the top of the third inning, and that brings up the second baseman, Ashton Pope. So the long-term effects maybe with the pitcher, Zach Hunt, when he had to have that layover, so to speak, in the bottom of the first inning might be rearing its head at this point, but that's a nice curveball on the outside part of the plate for strike one.
And that seems like the one pitch so far that he still has great command over. There's the four-seam fastball, and it's still
a little high
and tends to be a little bit outside. But going to Florence, if you look at the schools that they're from, you have Trinity Collegiate out of Hartsville. You have Hartsville High School. That pitch is swung on and drilled into deep left center field. The center fielder back in front of the track will make the catch. Wow.
We were just talking about
is he out or safe? The ball gets by the third baseman, but not going anywhere is Brockman. So that's a very aggressive tag and a heck of a throw from the center fielder, Jamarcus Williams.
Not only that, but he was back there in the deepest part of the ballpark to have to get that ball down there. Ethan Guy comes to the plate with a runner just 90 feet away from scoring.
So Lakeview High School, South Florence, Chesterfield, Darlington, Hannah Pamplico, P27 Academy, and I might have missed it, but if I did, Latta and Lakeview.
A lot of schools represented on Post 1.
Yeah, the PD region of South Carolina is really rich in baseball talent.
But as you mentioned, all 46 counties, there's a lot of talent in all those. That ball's fouled off to the right side again to run the count to 0-2. One out here in the top half of the third inning. Florence leading Cherryville 7-1 in the opener of the North Carolina-South Carolina American Legion Challenge. The pitch, and that's hit down third base, and it gets over the third baseman's head, and that will score the run. And he takes a look at second base, but retreats back to first, and it's now 7-2.
Just hit off the
Cherryville.
grass and just a big hop, and the third baseman playing even with the bag, it just bounds over his head. Sometimes you hit them where they ain't. Here's Jenkins.
Now batting third baseman number 27, Landon Jenkins.
There's nothing the third baseman could do about that. He wasn't in any position to make that play the way that ball hopped up over his head.
Mm-mm.
And Landon Jenkins fouls that one off to the right side. Seeing a lot of foul balls off to that side and very few off to the left side today.
I would call that a baseball play. There was a play in last night's game between Rock Hill and Fort Mill where the ball was just a worm burner, and that went inside, almost hit him. And the ball on the fifth or sixth hop hit a pebble, a divot, something, and just took a wicked hop to the right of the first baseman. It's just a base hit.
Yep.
It's a baseball play. It is what it is.
You
It's
can't
not that
beat-
anybody made a mistake. It's just the ball was hit to a perfect spot.
That ball's fouled off to the right side as well. The right fielder giving it chase, but it gets into the woods.
And the players aren't the only impressive part about American Legion. Look at who these coaches are. I mean, Derek Urquhart, he's in the Hall of Fame, for crying out loud. He's no slouch. You look at Zay Paul, his assistant, who's the head coach at Morris College. And if you're not familiar with Morris College, it is also in the PD region. As a matter of fact, my friend Gerald saved this as the runner takes off for
hit and
second.
run.
The pitch is popped up on the infield. Runner's got to hurry back, and the third baseman will make the catch. That could have been calamitous.
Well, and he looked like he was bobbling the ball on purpose to maybe try and double him up a little bit.
Now batting the catcher number 4, Will Fowler.
Will Fowler steps up to the plate here with 2 outs in the top of the third inning. Florence has scored a run on 2 hits so far in this inning.
My buddy Gerald, who was born in Timmonsville and went to Clemson with me, his granddaddy, we all called him Granddaddy. I couldn't tell you what his real name was to save my life, but everybody called him Granddaddy. Granddaddy was a professor at Morris College, and everybody calls his mama Bernice. She's either Mama B or Mrs. B.
Granddaddy giving $5 bills at birthday time.
Oh, Granddaddy didn't get 5s; he gave 20s. Granddaddy had nickels to rub together.
He
As
was
he
the
used to
mayor
say.
of Timmonsville, huh?
He was a legend. That man was so. I wish he was still around, man. He was. You could run anything by him. He was just a great dude.
A nice little town down there, Timmonsville. The 1-0 pitch. Zach Hunt delivers it, and the curveball goes to the screen. And that'll advance the runner to third base. A nice kick back to the catcher, but the base runner already down there in plenty of time.
And I'm nitpicking here. So, Florence fans, I know you're not going to like me very much for saying this, but even with a 6-run lead, you look at the body language of Zach Hunt. He's not exactly thrilled to death out there. He's still just battling and battling. He doesn't have his ace stuff right now. But the sign of a really good pitcher and competitor is he continues to battle without his ace plus stuff, keeping his team in the game. He's still got a 6-run lead, even though he's been knocked around a little bit.
He has, and so I guess now it's how long do you leave him in there? It's 7-2. That ball's outside, 3-1.
Yeah, so a 5-run lead, so I apologize for that. But if I'm Coach Urquhart, and of course I'm not, he's forgotten more baseball than I happen to know, but I'm going to ride this pony as long as I possibly can. We're in the top of the third inning, see if he can go at least 5 or 6.
Ball 4 to Will Fowler, and that'll bring up the DH, Will Blackburn.
Now batting for Cherryville, the designated hitter number 22, Will Blackburn.
And at this point, I don't have game changer in front of me, and I don't have a pitch counter in here, but you got to figure that Hunt is probably getting up there to the point where he's probably not pitching again the rest of the weekend.
And here comes pitching coach Adam Theodowa. I think you had a line to the Florence dugout, didn't you?
I think
You
I
were saying something, and here
think
here
some-
comes Adam poking his head out of the Florence dugout first base side. All the South Carolina teams will be in the first base dugout this entire weekend. North Carolina in the third base dugout. Now, the thing about it is the first base dugout during the day, you're looking right into the sun. It is setting off to our left, and it's going to stay a big ball in the sky right in your face till about 7:20-ish. Maybe even 7:30, because we're approaching June the 22nd, which I believe is the longest day of the year
it is.
from a sunlight perspective. Although when you get to my age, the years become shorter and the days become longer. So it
Right.
doesn't matter if it's December 22nd or June 22nd, they're all long.
They're all very long. Blackburn stands in there with runners at the corners with 2 outs here in the top of the third inning, and that pitch is right down the middle for a strike. And that looked like a nice grooved fastball there.
And it makes me wonder if that's what Coach Fiedel basically said to him is, look, man, make them earn it. Pump it in there. If they hit it, they hit it. They've been hitting it hard, but getting out. Let them do it again. And that one's crushed in the deep left center field, but the ballpark will hold it. You can't hit the ball to that part of the yard, and the center fielder, Mr. Williams, will gallop under it and retire the side. Nothing across for Cherryville. Hit to the bottom of the third. Still 7-2 Florence.
Bottom of inning number 3, Florence post 1 leading Cherryville post 100 7-2. And new pitcher for Cherryville post 100 will be who was the designated hitter, and Will Blackburn, and he'll stand in there.
Bottom of the third inning for Florence post 1. Top of the order, left fielder number 21, Brody Cook.
And he gets to face the top of the order for Florence here in the bottom of the third, starting with the left fielder, Brody Cook.
Third time through the order for Florence.
And he hits a drive out into center field, and looks like that'll be over the head of the center fielder, and he's just kind of doing a light jog out there, and Cook will breeze in with a stand-up leadoff double here in the bottom of the third.
That ball fooled him. That ball had a lot of backspin and carry on it, and it just kept carrying and kept carrying. But it'll be a double for Florence, and here they go again for more.
Down to the plate for Florence post 1 is the second baseman number 6, Jackson Moore.
And Jackson Moore comes to the plate.
And we do have to find a spot for my man Ryan Chiz for the Fort Mill game. We'll figure something out. We'll have to slide our fat rear ends over.
Yeah, it'll be
No.
easy.
I want you to be comfortable, man.
Exactly.
Do you? I don't want to cramp your style, man. Me casa, su casa. You're more than what. We'll make room, man. Not a problem.
That curveball bends right in there for strike number one
I
against
don't know what
Jackson
you mean
Moore.
by this we stuff. I said that's Keith's problem. There's no I in team. There's no we either.
No. The
No,
0-1.
Just the one.
Swing and a miss for strike two. So Blackburn fooling him with some off-speed pitches so far, and post one is going to have to face yet another arm and see how they fare against that. So far, they've done well with the first two pitchers.
And the guy I'm having a chat with is Ryan Chiz. He's the father of Sam Chiz, who's a player for Fort Mill Post 43. He's one of the Clover Blue Eagles who I was waxing poetic about just a few moments ago. This guy, unfortunately, works at the same company my wife does, and he is a technological guru. He's got all kinds of gadgets. He makes me look like small Pete.
Good, then
potatoes.
we need all the help we can get up here in this booth.
And Moore got plunked on the foot, so first and second for Florence for Symes.
First up for Florence is the first baseman, number 16, Shamar Symes.
And here's that man again that we were talking about earlier.
Here's that man again.
And you got to figure at some point Symes is going to get a hold of one right here. First and second, nobody out here in the bottom of the third inning with Florence leading Cherryville 7-2, and that curveball stays a little bit inside. But the way that ball's been moving for Blackburn, I wouldn't have been surprised if it dropped right in the basket.
100%. If you look at the way that Mr. Symes is holding the bat, his approach is unorthodox, but as the pitch gets delivered, his hands are in a more
and he hits a
position.
drive to deep left field, and that ball's out of here.
Way out of here. You said it was just a matter of time, Keith, and you were right, man. That ball is way out of here. And Florence has dropped the hammer on Cherryville. 10-2, folks. We're only in the third. And Shamar just introduced himself to the Milltown. That was a rocket.
That was, and hopefully the pitchers on Post 43 are paying attention to that for later on in the season.
They're probably thinking, can he not play? That'd be great. Thank you.
Now batting for Florence, post one, number 24, Zach Hunt.
So now you come up to the pitcher again with Zach Hunt, and we start talking about what's going to happen with him now that he's got an 8-run lead at this point.
Well, Florence is not having any sympathetic feelings at all towards whoever the new twirler is for Cherryville. They've come to this tournament to make a point, and if you look at Florence's record so far this year, there's a big fat goose egg in the loss column. But that's not really the story, in my opinion, when talking about Florence. Look at the run differential. If you want to see it, go to scalb.com and just click on it. Look at what their run differential is. It's ridiculous.
Well, and that's something that we looked at on the junior side was when we were facing Rock Hill this week. You're thinking, wow, they've only given up 22 runs over 8 games, so that's pretty good. And then we put 16 on them in game one.
Yeah, baseball's a funny old game. That pitch is swung on and fouled off out of play. But one thing that got me was I looked at Fort Mill Seniors 43 and looked at the total runs scored by both teams, both Fort Mill and the opponent, and looked at just what Florence had scored.
Right.
I mean, this team from, and we're not being biased towards South Carolina. We're just telling you, this Florence team, if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to outslug them. That's just the way it is.
That'll be strike 3 on a swing and a miss, and that'll be out number 1 here in the bottom of the third inning.
Logging to the plate for Florence, post one is the third baseman, number 2, Nick Foster.
And honestly, you go back to the 2021 state championship, it was a slugfest. And Florence outslugged Fort Mill. I mean, that's how they won the state title. It's not death by 1,000 cuts. It can be if you want Coach Urquhart to play that way. He's not afraid to play that way. But you just saw what Shamar Symes can do. You want to play long ball? They can do that too.
And he hit it in that nice sweet spot of the ballpark there in left center field. And that's with the wind blowing away from the ball where it was going.
Yes, but the secret sauce to that is he hit it to the left of the light pole.
Yep.
You got to hit it to the left of the light pole. You hit it directly at the pole or to the right. It's just an invisible force field, some Star Wars nonsense. But it's like it just hits a wall as it gets out towards the warning track.
The 2-0 upstairs, 3-0 now. Jamarcus Williams, the center fielder, on deck for post 1. But first, the 3-0 pitch, and that's up high for ball 4.
And the
So another
line
base
keeps on
runner on.
moving.
How about center fielder number 20, Jamarcus Williams?
So Jamarcus Williams comes in here with a runner on and one out here in the bottom of the third inning. His team already leading 10-2. He could probably poke one out there in the left field as well.
And that's the thing I'm wondering, because the young man on the mound for Cherryville, this is the third pitcher of the day. We're only into third. It's 10-2 your score. There's no action in the Cherryville bullpen, but I'm not really surprised by that, because how many arms do you want to send out there on a really hot day when hydration is an issue? And the thing is, well, he only threw 20-something pitches. That ball's roped in the left field, and the hit parade for Florence continues to march along.
As Minshew comes to the plate, you also got to think about the fact that Cherryville has to play another game.
Another game, yeah. Not tonight, though. They see you, Ryan. Good to see you, buddy. If you change your mind, man, let us know. Always welcome, my friend. Ryan Chiz, he does a great job. He can run a camera and do Game Changer at the same time. And he does it all with a phone and an iPad. He
Incredible.
puts me to shame. Yeah, he's a smart dude. He's in IT like my wife is. And my wife is a lot smarter than I am. And that's advice that I give to all of the players at Fort Mill, the Post 43, and to Fort Mill High School. If you can get a woman to tolerate your nonsense and she's higher on the food chain than you are, you need to hold on with both hands, son.
Absolutely. That ball catches the outside corner for strike two. 1-2 now the count. Minshew.
People are like, you outkicked your coverage. Yes, I did.
I hear it all the time,
Praise
and I agree.
the Lord.
The 1-2 pitch, and it's a little foul ball out into right field, and
Playable.
It looks like he comes over and makes a catch, and that'll be an easy tag up from second base.
And that's one of the things about this ballpark is there's just a plethora of foul territory. So even if you get an out, it's a big park, so you can still get another 90 out of it. And that's what Florence did. They're not resting on their laurels with an 8-run lead. Here's KJ.
And I was wanting to see if that shift was back on Hughes again, but it doesn't look like it is. The outfielders are straight away in left, center, and right field.
Well, I wonder if that was just a matchup with that particular pitcher and not him not able to pull that pitch. And there's what looked like a changeup on the outside corner. No balls in a strike. And the changeup, speaking of that, is one of those pitches in modern day baseball you're seeing more and more of. It wasn't plentiful 20 years ago. People had it. A lot of people had it, but it wasn't basically as well known as it is today at this level of baseball. Some kids had it, but now today everybody has it as a third pitch.
You think about those Atlanta Braves pitchers in the 90s, they utilized the changeup with perfection.
Yeah, Tom Glavine was the circle change. And that's the other thing is there are different types of changeups. There's not just one. You got 3 fingers on the baseball, but there's a circle change. There's a straight up change. That pitch is swung on deep in the hole. It's short. Putting his foot in the ground, throw to first, got him.
Just
close play, KJ. And I think if they had replay, he would have asked for one, but that does retire the side. We had to inning number 4. It's all Florence. It's 10-2.
Bottom half of inning number 4 here from Fort Mill High School in the opening game of the North Carolina South Carolina American League Challenge, and Florence leading Cherryville 10-2, and Cherryville now has some action down in the bullpen, whereas we didn't see any there in the top half of the 4th inning.
Leading up the top of the fourth inning for Cherryville post 100 is the first baseman number 12, Joseph Webb.
And Joseph Webb steps in there against Zach Hunt, and the first pitch catches the inside corner for a strike.
If you'd have told me coming in that there'd be a lot of runs, I would have said, of course. Wouldn't have been surprised. The score differential and the score, the way it sits right now, total surprise.
And as I mentioned earlier, Cherryville's not used to this.
No, not at all. They're used to being on the other side of the coin. And one team that Fort Mill played earlier this year was Matthews Post 235, who's a pretty good team. Cherryville boat raced them. I think the score was 18-6.
Good night.
So this Cherryville team is used to having offensive firepower, and so far, even though Zach Hunt arguably doesn't have his A-plus stuff, there's only 2 runs on the board for Cherryville.
2-2 now the count to Joseph Webb, and he hits a fly ball off to the right side. It'll get out foul. We'll do that 2-2 all over again.
The nightcap tonight is the home standing Fort Mill Post 40, or the P43s as we call them. They'll take on Davidson County, who I believe their nickname is the Hogs.
The Hogs, okay.
Hogs, yeah. 2-2, swung on and fouled off.
Hey, he catches his own ball. Maybe that should be counted as a walk.
Well, I think the catcher that was that's quick thinking by the catcher, Tucker Bass. He caught that on the ricochet and tried to tag him to see if the umpire would buy it, but he did not. That's quick thinking from Bass, though. I like it. The imagination, trying to politic into an out call.
I'm not buying what you're selling, son.
No. 2-2, swung on and a chopper third base side. Nice scoop play by the third baseman. Throw to first, got him. What a play by Nick Foster. Made that look a lot easier than it is. 1 up and 1 down for the 9-hole hitter, Reynolds.
And not only do they have it offensively tonight, but the defense shows up in a big way on that particular play. Brings up Braden Reynolds, the right fielder for Cherryville.
And I'll tell you how small of a town or how small of a state South Carolina can be in the world of American Legion baseball. And this involves my family and the Greer Warhawks. The 1-0 swung on and hit high and out of play foul. It's 1-1. So I found out earlier today from my Uncle Jerry. He called me and goes, "Hey, boy." I said, "Hey, Unc." He's my sports uncle. He always listens and watches and critiques my broadcast, which I love. He's always got great advice. That pitch is fouled off at home plate is 1-2. And he goes, "Hey, do you know this player from Greer?" I said, "Well, I've heard of them. Why?" And he said, "Because your cousin Tommy." I was like, "Yeah, Tommy. Yeah." His oldest daughter, Ellie, they're dating. I went, "Wait a second. Ellie's dating a baseball player from Greer?" He goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Good to know."
Called strike 3.
I'm going to leave that up to her daddy to figure that one out. Not my problem.
I love the sports uncles that just call and they say, "Hey, boy." My uncle who lives down in Tryon, North Carolina, he's a Clemson graduate as well. He would do the same thing. "Hey, boy."
Hey, boy. That's it. That pitch is swung on, and a worm burner right to the third baseman. Foster slings it across the diamond, and ABC 1-2-3 goes Cherryville. Head to the bottom of the 4th. It's all Florence. It's 10-2.
So your surprise team in the College World Series, Oral Roberts, makes it through with a win in game number 1 in the College World Series today out in Omaha. And I got to tell you, that's a surprise entrant into the College World Series, JT.
Yeah, and you look at it, they matched up Oral Roberts against TCU, two of the hottest teams in college baseball since the start of May. I think they had combined for 3 losses total in the month of May and June between the two of them. So that's very impressive for Oral Roberts and for TCU. But TCU takes it on the chin today, 6-5. The nightcap is the Florida Gators, the Virginia Cavaliers, ACC versus SEC.
That should be a pretty good one indeed.
Leading up the bottom of the fourth inning for Florence, catcher number 11, Tucker Bass.
Tucker Bass leads it off in the bottom of the 4th inning for Florence Post 1. They lead Cherryville Post 100 10-2 here in the bottom of the 4th. And that ball almost hits Bass in the back of the head for ball 1. That pitch is fouled away as well.
And I tried to watch some of that game as I was working around the ball field, and it was extremely difficult. I had to start listening to it and wasn't surprised at all. And that ball comes inside as a breaking ball, and it was just guided. And Bass giving a dirty eye out there to the pitcher.
Yeah,
but
he did not like that.
Yeah, that was just a breaking ball that got way out of his hand. He tried to guide it. Nothing sinister there at all. If it had been a fastball in his kitchen, that's one thing, but that's just a breaking ball that never broke.
And Bass will come out of the game
Back
for a
to the top of
courtesy
the
runner.
order for Florence Post 1 and left fielder 21, Brady Cook.
Brody Cook comes to the plate, and speaking of pitchers, there is a new pitcher on the mound for Post 100, and that's the former center fielder Riley Stiles. And Cook hits a lofty ball in the right field, but it's going to carry off the wall. That's going to be a long, long double. It'll be runners at second and third to lead off the bottom of the 4th inning here for Florence Post 1.
Let's just go ahead and put the myth to the side. Is the 10 rule in effect? Yes, it is. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying, oh, by the way.
That'll bring up the second baseman, Jackson Moore.
Florence is the second baseman, number 6, Jackson Moore.
And I want to go back to when we were talking about Shamar Symes when he came up, who he's actually on deck, as a matter of fact, what he was putting in the dirt out there. It almost looked like he was putting a tic-tac-toe board out there.
Here's where I'm going to hit the baseball.
Right, and he did.
And he did, yeah.
And that's a high fly ball out into left field, and the left fielder, Ethan Bay, will get under it. Oh, he drops it. The runner will score, and the runner at second base, Brody Cook, will just stay there because he thought for sure that ball was going to be caught. So
that'll be an E7 to allow the runner to score, and that makes it 11-2 Florence. So another error on Cherryville. I believe that's their third of the day. And guess who's walking to the plate?
Now batting for Florence, first baseman, number 16, Shamar Symes.
and something else.
Here's that man again, Shamar Symes. Last time he was up, ladies and gentlemen, he sent one about 370 feet yonder way for a 3-run bomb. And now he's got a chance to do the same thing. Runners at first and second and nobody out. Inside corner with a breaking ball, called a strike. Man, this dude's just, his frame and just the way he stays so calm in the box and brings his hands up.
He's quite a hitter.
Yep.
The 0-1, and he pounds it into left field. They'll keep the runner at third base, though, because he hit it so hard that the left fielder was able to get it in fast enough. But 2 consecutive hits for Mr. Symes, and they're all loaded up again.
Ducks on the pond, and we got a pinch hitter. It's number 22, Josh Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Pitch hitting for Florence Post 1 is number 22, Josh Williams.
Williams, a strong-looking gentleman out there from the left side, and the wind is not blowing out to that right side as we were talking about earlier.
I'm going to say this as a compliment. All of these Florence guys look like linebackers playing baseball.
They do indeed.
They're just barrel-chested. They've got just their legs. They're basically that lower body strength that's all there. You can see their hip movement, the way they swing the bat. They've all got good eyes. They all look pitches into the catcher's mitt. It just seems like they're just a mirror of each other, each and every one.
Every one of them,
Yep.
yeah. There's
Yep.
not one that doesn't look like one. The 1-1. Curveball stays down and inside for ball 2.
And they've got speed, they've got power.
They are a force to be reckoned with in South Carolina for sure.
And the
That
thing I'll
stays
say about
outside.
Derek Urquhart, the coach of Florence, who's lurking in the third base coach's box, you watch his body language and his facial expression, you would not know if he's up by 20 or down by 20. He's not satisfied till that last out is recorded. He just continues to just grind, and his players basically are a reflection of that. That pitch is swung on and roped in the left field for a base hit. 1 run is in. The next throw, the relay throw, not in time. Coming home to score behind Cook is Moore, and it's a double-digit lead now as it's 13-2. And Florence continues to just pile on the misery of Cherryville. The line keeps moving for Nick Foster.
Ladies and gentlemen, typically pitch hitting for Florence, coach one, number 3, Jake Hardy.
So it's actually not Foster. It's another pinch hitter. This time is Jake Hardy.
Still nobody out here in the bottom half of the 4th inning.
Jake Hardy, a second baseman out of South Florence High School, Effingham, South Carolina.
3 more across for Florence Post 1 here in the bottom of the 4th. They lead 13-2, and they're not done yet. Still runners at first and third with nobody out.
You're waiting for them to kick the extra point, aren't you?
I am.
That's what you wanted to say. I knew it. I could feel it. That pitch is swung on and whistled foul.
And
out of
perhaps
right side.
Mr. Hardy can do that for me.
Well, you know what? With the way these Florence guys are, who knows? They probably could kick the football right between the light poles and just,
Right
you know,
behold.
that these guys would probably hit the daggone flagpole.
The 0-2 pitch. Tried to sneak it inside, but it stayed too far inside 1-2, and that ball gets away from the pitcher.
And you got to pay attention to that because that is not a dead ball.
No. The 1-2 pitch, and he takes over to first base. Just steps off the rubber. And that ball stays outside. That'll be ball 2 to even the count up.
And that's the thing with the home plate umpire. I've noticed that he's given the inside corner and he's given some latitude north and south, but that outside corner, making him pitch it right over the corner. And that pitch is swung on and foul tips into the glove of the catcher for strike 3. And that's the first out here in the bottom of inning number 4. And I think we're going to have another pinch hitter for Florence. And this time it's number 17, and that's Luke Miller.
So Luke Miller stands in there with 1 out, runners still at the corners, and that breaking ball stays down in the dirt for ball 1.
South Florence High School, a first baseman and a pitcher, hometown of Florence for Mr. Luke Miller. Tall drink of water, but in a crouch.
1-0, right down the middle for strike 1. Quick shout out to my cousin Stacy Yike up in the Washington, D.C. area. I believe she's planning on tuning in today. Today is her 56th birthday, and I know she probably doesn't appreciate the number, but she's a month and a day older than I am, so I get to do that. And that's roped to second base and brought in by Ashton Pope for out number 2, who throws over to first base, and Williams is there in time.
Ladies and gentlemen, your team to please pitch hitting for Florence.
So this is pinch hitter number 3 in a row, I believe. This time it'll be Aiden Palmer, Aydin.
And Coach Urquhart going to empty the bench here in game number 1 with an 11-run lead. That's certainly well within the protocol.
Well, and this is the thing. With a game that's just this lopsided, this is exactly what you do. You try to get everybody involved in the game, get them some PT, put stuff on film to coach them up that much more. Even though the scouting reports, because in this day and age of film and stuff on social media, there are no hidden secrets anymore. Everybody kind of knows everything about everything.
But people still try to cover it up a little bit the best they can, but with everything going on, like you said, in social media and all the cameras everywhere, it's kind of hard to hide.
It is 2 balls and a strike here to Aiden Palmer. Now, interesting here. So he throws lefty, but he bats righty.
Oh, that's unusual.
Usually it's the other way around. Pitch is swung on and popped up a mile high above the light, shallow right field. Back goes the second baseman, and it caroms off the glove. He tried to look it into the glove, moving to his left, and it bangs out of the glove. That'll be another error on Cherryville. It'll go as an E4. Coming all the way around to score is Josh Williams, and it's 15-2.
And you saw that ball. It was just kind of hanging there, and the right fielder had to come a long way to get it. The second baseman went way out to get it as well, and the concentration must have just kind of gotten the best of them and, well, dropped the ball. Runner at second base, still 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th.
Yeah, wind blowing, pushing that ball away from him as he starts to sort of glide over towards the first base foul line. And I think we're waiting on another pinch hitter here for Florence. We are. It's going to be Noah Moore.
So Noah Moore stands in there, and he's got another runner out there in scoring position with 2 outs here in the bottom of the 4th.
Another South Florence youngster.
5 runs across for post 1 here in the bottom of the 4th inning. That stays outside. You figure at this point in the game that the umpire might have a little bit more of a liberal strike zone.
I was just thinking the same thing. Normally it becomes big enough you could drive 2 men in a truck through it.
Although we're not advertising for 2 men in a truck tonight.
No, we're advertising for Ballantine and Beyond Moving, a proud sponsor of 4 Mill Post 43. Whether it's a local or international move, get a quote today at ballantinemoving.com.
And our good friend Greg Causey.
704-544-1800. Yep.
1-1 the count. Here comes the pitch. Swing and a miss for strike 2. I saw Greg at Blue Smokehouse a few weeks ago, and we talked about the sponsorship and glad to have him back for another year.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
The 1-2 pitch.
Very important. Yep.
Swung on and fouled off to the right side. And if I do believe, I think I saw Mr. Yellow Jacket himself, Travis Collier.
Oh, he's rollicking around the park.
I think I just see him down there by the locker room or the facility. So it's called.
The barn.
The barn. 1-2 the count. Here's the pitch. Up high for ball 2.
And the King Bee is in the building. Ladies and gentlemen, the beloved principal of this here Fort Mill High School, Mr. Zach Beam. How you doing, Ben? Mr. Beam, good to see you, man. Good to see you. I appreciate it, buddy. What you doing here, man?
He rips that out into center field, and they're gonna go station to station at this point, it looks like.
Yeah, and that's protocol for baseball. You're up by double-digit runs. You just go station to station. You don't want to kind of rub it in the eye there. But the line continues for Bass.
Tucker Bass, the catcher, comes to the plate, and then we'll return to the top of the lineup, provided he gets on board here with 2 outs in the bottom of the 4th.
If you want to get Zach Bean, the beloved principal of Fort Mill High School, you want to get him excited? Ask him out of his beloved Appalachian State Mountaineers. Yeah, there it goes. What about him? Boone, North Kakalaka.
My one-day daughter-in-law just graduated from Appalachian. She did. Now, my knucklehead son, on the other hand, he's in South Carolina.
Oh, you knew the butt was coming.
He's spent plenty of time up in Boone over his 5 years doing some snowboarding. He loves it up there in Boone. That pitch swung on down the third base line. They'll glove it over to first base, and that'll mercifully end the bottom half of the 4th inning, but not before Florence scores 5 more runs. And the score now, Florence 15, Cherryville 2. You're listening to the North Carolina, South Carolina American Legion Baseball Challenge. Easy for me to say. On the We Are Fort Mill Broadcasting YouTube Broadcasting Network. We're going to take a break for station identification. And it's 15-2 Florence. Top of the fifth inning, Florence leading Cherryville 15-2, and Shamar Symes, who has a 3-run home run to his credit tonight, is on the mound to look to close this one out and take game number one in the North Carolina South Carolina American Legion Baseball Challenge here at Fort Mill High School this weekend.
And kicking things off here for Cherryville in their half of the fifth inning is going to be Brockman.
Leading up the top of the fifth inning for Cherryville is the shortstop number 15, Zane Brockman.
Symes throws a fastball right down the middle for strike one to Zane Brockman, the shortstop, leading off. This team trailing 15-2 here in the top of the fifth, but if you're Cherryville, you want to see a little bit of life despite how things are going right now.
See if you can't tack on at least 4 runs and make this bad boy go another inning at least.
The 1-1 down low for ball 2.
And if you think coaches aren't paying attention during this part of a game, you would be dead wrong. They're actually paying just as much attention because, like Keith said, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for guys that are going to continue to go up there and battle despite what the scoreboard has to say.
The 3-1, and it's outside for ball 4. Leadoff walk to Brockman.
Walking to the plate for Cherryville is the second baseman number 18, Ashton Cook.
That'll bring up Ashton Pope, the second baseman. Let's see if he can bring Brockman around. Good eye by Brockman there against Symes. Pitch catches the outside corner for strike one.
And that's not a nice little pitch there from Symes. That one's got some glove side run to it right there. A lot of late movement.
He tried to throw the same pitch, but it stayed a little bit low, 1-1.
And he's just snapping that thing off. He's got a very quick motion, not a lot of wasted space at all, and motion as his hat flies off right there. 2 balls and a strike. There's a young man, the starter for Northeastern, that looks a lot like Symes. The same body type, same hair, same kind of motion towards the plate. I think he wears number 6 for the Huskies. By the way, their head coach is a guy named Matt Glavin. That's brothers with, you guessed it, Tom Glavin. And that is ball 4, so back-to-back walks. And first and second here for Cherryville. And that'll bring up Guy.
Ethan Guy comes to the plate. First and second here in the top half of the fifth inning, pardon me. And
catcher Bass going out to talk to Symes a little bit. And if I'm Tucker right here, I'm going out to Symes and saying, look, man, just don't try to be quite as fine. Just throw your stuff
it in there.
Trust it. Just throw it in there.
As our high school coach used to tell us, trust your defense. Swing and a miss. That's exactly what he did through the 4-seamer. A little bit high in the zone, and Guy tried to go get it and couldn't get there.
Beautiful pitch right above the hands.
Fouled straight back, and quickly 0-2 in the hole is Guy. And you got to wonder if that's what happened out there on the mound, because it looks like he's going 4-seam, and trying to blow it right by Guy. The 0-2. Well, breaking ball lofted out in the left field, but standing there easily is the left fielder, Brody Cook. Landon Jenkins comes to the plate. Cherryville didn't use as many substitutes as Florence did, except on the mound. How many pitchers? They went 3 pitches. 3 pitchers, and Siri was trying to
wants
find
to talk
the
to you.
pitchers.
Boy, she picks the most inopportune times to start talking to you, don't she?
She does. Ball in the dirt. Nice block there by Bass.
The thing about it is there's no rest for the weary for Cherryville. They got to turn around tomorrow morning.
Ball in the dirt, 2-0. So runners at first and second, nobody out here in the top of the fifth inning, and Cherryville looking to kind of mount a little mini comeback here just to kind of say, hey, we're not as bad as a 15-2 score, and that's driven into right field. And that'll rattle around in the corner. One run will score for sure. And Guy coming around and stopping at second base.
Be a stand-up double and RBI, 15-3, and Cherryville not going away without a fight, nor would we have anticipated them to do that. Line continues to move for Fowler.
Now batting pitcher number 4, Will Fowler.
So Fowler stands in there, and he's got two guys out there in scoring position with nobody out. Have an opportunity to get this game to within 10 with one stroke of the bat. Or if he finds it over the wall, sends this game into some extra baseball, so to speak.
And the umpire called time right there because Symes wanted to come set before the batter had looked out at home plate. That ball bounces away from Bass, but not far enough away for the runners to advance. You see more and more umpires doing that. They'll call time. They wait for the batter to step in the box and look at the pitcher. They make eye contact, and then you go. But if the pitcher wants to come set and the batter's not done with his motion first, that little behavioral thing, the repetitive motion they do, they will stop it.
Swing and a miss. Nice cut there by Fowler. That ball a little bit high, 2-1 now the count.
The thing I love about Symes is he gets the ball back from Bass and he's ready to go. He's not messing around. He's not taking 20 seconds. He's taking less than 10.
He really is. He's very quick on his pitching. 3-1 now the count. First base open.
I've never seen this young man pitch before, but I'm starting to wonder if he might be a little too quick at the moment.
That ball stays inside for ball 4, so the bases are loaded now with nobody out here in the top half of the fifth inning. And that'll bring up the...
It's going to be a pitch hitter.
It
It's
is a
going to be
pinch
number
hitter.
7. It's going to be Cannon Willis.
Cannon Willis. Yep.
Please show me your attention, please. Pitch hitting for Cherryville, number 7, Cannon Willis.
So Willis has an opportunity with nobody out here in the top of the fifth to do some damage. The first pitch to him is a swing and a miss, strike one. And Symes just blew that right by him. He's ready to pitch. Here's the 0-1. It's a high fly ball. That'll likely get the run in. Williams gets under it, and he throws it, and he just throws over towards the shortstop, allowing the run to score. That'll be one out here in the top of the fifth inning, and the score now 15-4.
Yeah, no sense in trying to throw that ball to home. Just get the out and move on.
Plus, it keeps the potential
Now batting first baseman number 12, Joseph Webb.
the potential 10 deficit run 90 feet closer to home plate.
Yeah, to keep the game going into the 6th. That 6th run is standing at first base with only one out.
Joseph Webb up to the plate. Outside.
Now, the other thing I find interesting about Symes is that it's not your traditional set. A lot of pitchers will come set out of the stretch, but look at how that front foot is. It's not quite a hybrid, but it's close.
Yeah, he looks like he's pointing towards his own dugout. The 1-0 pitch. Up high for ball 2.
And you see that more and more in the game as well. And youngsters are just trying to find that comfort zone, that sweet spot, if you will, to get the right vantage point. That's a nasty slider right on the outside corner at the knees.
That was nasty.
Wow.
2-1 the count. Another
2-1.
one.
Same pitch, same spot, same result. 2-2.
Braden Reynolds on deck for post 100.
Got some folks with their pocket radar guns out on
The
Mr.
2-2.
Symes.
Down in the dirt. Nice block. Run it full.
But I like the pitch selection from the standpoint of it wasn't in the strike zone. See if the batter Webb would expand the strike zone, but Webb wise to the move.
He didn't chase so far, but certainly a great idea by Symes. The payoff pitch. Down in the dirt for ball 4, so the bases are loaded now for Braden Reynolds.
And that all-important 6th run to keep the game moving, now in scoring position with only one down. And a base hit by Reynolds right here would score that fifth and sixth run. It's 15-4 here in the top of the fifth, only one down.
And you had a home run cut on that one.
And there was the old Linda Ronstadt. Tried the little blue bayou and just whizzed it past him.
0-1 the count. Another one. Another Linda Ronstadt. I guess she came out for an encore.
Yes, she did.
0-2 the count.
You want triple up?
The triple Lindy, the 0-2. He hits it to short. That'll score one run.
It's actually going to retire the side and then the ball game. That'll be out number 3. And that's your ball game. Your final score is Florence 15 and Cherryville 4. Turn it over to Keith. You handle it, bud.
All righty.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the ball game. Your final score: Florence Post 1 15, Cherryville Post 100. Thanks so much for coming outside, supporting the fun for Florence coaches. We really do appreciate it. Your night captain is coming up here in just a little bit. Let's talk a little more baseball. Thanks for coming out tonight to the 2023 North Carolina versus South Carolina Championship.
15-4, your final. Florence defeats Cherryville Post 100, and they did it with a barrage of hitting. Symes hits a 3-run homer, and that kind of set the tone for what was getting ready to happen. Now, you got to tip your hat to Cherryville for giving a little bit of effort there in the top of the fifth inning to try to move the game along a little further. But
yeah, a lot of pride in that Cherryville program, and rightfully so. They are a very prestigious program, championship level program, and they're not used to this line score. So let's go ahead and fast forward to tomorrow on both sides of the coin. First of all, for Coach Reynolds in Cherryville, he's going to have a chat with his players. I have a feeling they're going to respond tomorrow. So whoever's on the other end of the stick against that group tomorrow, I wish you the best of luck, because that group's going to come out with a bit between their teeth. Now, flip it around and talk about Coach Urquhart and his crew using a bunch of his bench and 10 running the opponent. That's all well and good. I've seen that team and that coach long enough to tell you they're not going to go home and rest on the laurels. They're going to enjoy it. They're going to go enjoy it. They're going to have a good time as a team, soak it all in. But they come back tomorrow morning, it's going to be as if this game tonight never even happened. They're going to come back with a clean slate, ready to pound on somebody else tomorrow. And tomorrow is just jacked full of baseball, ladies and gentlemen. It's all over the place. There's going to be 4 games tomorrow. So if you love baseball, come on out to Fort Mill High School. You can get in for a day pass is $10. If you want to get a team pass, it's $25. So different ways you can do it. There's a game at 11, 1:30, 4 o'clock, and 6:30. So come on out if you want to see some baseball, and we'd love to have you. But Keith, thanks so much for doing this, buddy. If y'all want to hang tight, we're going to stop this stream and start another one as Fort Mill will play in the nightcap here in about 30 minutes time. So appreciate y'all tuning in tonight wherever you may be across the fruited plains. Florence again defeats Cherryville by a final score of 15-4. So on behalf of our beloved athletic director Mac Banks, senior head coach Tom Skula, he's Keith Cook, I'm John Turner. We'll see you crazy kids next time. Until then, so long, everybody.